Okay, Lisa, I think we're good to go.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Manor and Riverside Centre on the 13th of January. I'll just run through the housekeeping, which I think we're all aware of. Declarations of interest, urgent matters of urgent attention, data protection. Please switch your phones off. Recording, this will be record what's going live on Facebook, and public participation, which we have none. Right, now on to the agenda. Apologies for absence.
We've got apologies from councillors Foden and Taylor, Chairman.
Okay. Do we agree to take those?
Thank you.
Agreement of the agenda between part 1 and 2. Well, we don't have a part 2. Declarations of interest. No declarations of interest. Dispensations.
None received, Chairman.
Minutes, which was page 5 to 8 of the agenda, to approve and sign the minutes of the last meeting. We all in favour?
Happy to propose we accept, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And all in favour? Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, item 6, the Manor House, Riverside Centre and Town Council offices, COVID-19, to receive a verbal update from the Town Clerk. Over to Andrew.
Thank you, Chairman. Fairly brief. I think this is going to become a regular item on this agenda. Obviously, we find ourselves in another national lockdown, and the impact on the Manor House and the Riverside Centre in terms of its activities is becoming more pronounced each time we get one. Obviously, the tier systems didn't help, but it did allow more groups to meet. But obviously, the lockdowns are actually much stricter, and only permitted groups can still meet and hire our rooms. And to date, as of the 31st of December, the income for the Manor House alone is 65% down on where it should have been for this year, this financial year. And that equates to approximately 26,000 in income. So it is hitting us quite hard, and obviously it will continue to do so now by the looks of it until the end of the financial year. Councillor Moorhead and Councillor Terry Lowther and Councillor Mary Lowther will be aware that in the budget setting we have taken note of that, and we are building in contingencies for the first quarter, maybe first half of the next financial year. And of course that may need to be re-looked at, because obviously we didn't know we were going to be locked down in quite the way we are back in December. So it's really just to say that it is starting to pinch. We are still facilitating support groups and education and training bookings where we can, but obviously that's nowhere near the levels of bookings that we used to have in the good times. So inevitably it is going to have an impact. So that really is where we are.
Thank you, Andrew. You said we're down 65%. What are the overheads? Are they the same as they would have been, or
they are much reduced?
They are much reduced.
They are much reduced. So once we come to the end of the financial year, you should see a fairly decent balancing out, perhaps a little more cushion. I mean, there will still be a loss, there's no doubt about that. Yes. But the fact that we're not doing half as much cleaning in terms of what we would have done, that has produced savings, as have the utilities.
And heating and things, I suppose.
And heating, yeah, that's right.
Right. Well, it is what it is. We, I can't see us getting out of this for I think we'll be having the same conversation on the next 3 or 4 Manor House meetings that we have. So I'll just note that. Thank you very much.
Chairman, I believe Councillor Moore has got a digital hand raised.
Sorry, Councillor Moorhead, if you'd like to talk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, Andrew, you mentioned the Manor House. Can you give us any information regarding Riverside, please?
Riverside is much the same, a little bit better, but then we don't budget for that amount of meetings down there, because obviously it's only one room essentially. So although it's down, the utilities and cleaning costs are much reduced there. So it's a much more favourable outcome for that building as opposed to the Manor House.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, there's nothing else to be said on that, is there? We can't do anything about it, unfortunately.
No.
Item 7, a progress report. Oh, sorry, Councillor Heath.
I just having a thinking, knowing what the problems were building up in the manor house, in that figure that you've got, because I don't believe you set aside a certain amount of money for what I'm going to explain. Maybe it might be worthwhile thinking about this, because although those figures don't look too shocking, I assume, tell me if I'm wrong, you haven't got a regular amount of money that's set aside, like a payment, like £100 a month, £300 a month, for going against maintenance, things that are still needed and are deteriorating, whether we use it or not. So I assume that figure is really a gross figure and not a net. Maybe it's something to think about for the future.
No, the figure that I've just quoted is purely hire income, and the fact that we're not receiving income from our usual hirers. We still have an earmark reserved. In fact, we have two. We have a general maintenance budget, maintenance and repairs, which off the top of my head is around 10 to 15,000 a year. We then also have an earmark reserve for council buildings, which is nigh on 100,000 for major projects. So we're well supported in that sense.
Oh, fantastic.
All right, thank you. Is everybody finished with this? We have, thank you. Item 7, progress report on the actions that we brought up at other meetings. And I think Andrew will have more on this than I have.
Oh, well, Chairman, the report has been circulated with the milestones on the right-hand side. So I don't know if members have got any questions that I can answer. I do have a couple of updates on a few specifics, but I'm happy to take questions now if there are any.
I think a lot of these, really and truthfully, are going to be delayed while we're in COVID, aren't they? The majority of these. Sorry? No?
I wouldn't think so. No, there's quite a few things. But Councillor Moorhood had her hand up.
Councillor Moorhood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, looking at the very first item on the checklist, I'm just wondering, following what Councillor Lowther's just said, there are a lot of work people and contractors still working, and especially in our case, since there's nobody in particular in the buildings, it's not such a risk, I would have assumed. Can you tell me, Andrew, whether we've had any answer or whether the mason has been to look at the front porch, please?
He hasn't been as yet, but he has been contacted and it is meant to be imminently.
Thank you.
And that's the same mason that was used to renovate the wall.
Yes, he's done work in my house in the past, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, may I?
What's coming up red is the reception desk, and that's the office works contractor. Do we know where we're going with that one?
Well, he's going to investigate what type of material could be used to make it look a bit more modern. Obviously, it looks a bit 1960s, 70s there with the angled wooden panels. So we're waiting for him to come back on that. But Councillor Mary Dow was quite right. Building contractors are exempt from the lockdown. They can continue to do works. Obviously, they are still operating at a little bit of a delay because of other knock-on effects, but we should imagine they will be able to get to us fairly soon.
I mean, this is the list that Councillor Lowther and myself walked around and looked at, and that's got to be a year ago now, isn't it?
It was February.
It was, well, yeah, not far off.
Yeah.
Councillor Lowther, but I'm not quite sure which Lowther.
Yes, it's me. Yeah, it's really just following on from what you just said about maintenance work, particularly by contractors coming in. A number of items with a quote sought against them, mostly to do with painting, touching things up. I mean, surely all that could be underway at the moment. I do all that.
We do want them to come in. We've already got one quote due to come back this week, and another 2 firms have been contacted. So it's our intention that they begin as soon as we get them back during this lockdown.
Okay, so you are chasing them.
Oh yes, yeah. And where it says quote sought, we're not talking multiple quotes. It's one quote encompassing all of the paint jobs of one quote. It just makes it a bit easier. Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully this time next month, maybe we'll have them done, or at least
Yeah,
further.
I'd like to think so. And one thing I would like a bit of steer on, members, is where is it? Yeah, about halfway down, corridor to council chamber, and that's the coat hooks, and
Oh,
whether
yeah.
or not it's actually required, whether you believe there's a requirement. Yeah, I have a view, but
Yes,
Personally, Mary, I've never used those coat hooks. I've always used the coat stand that's in the small conservatory, but whether that would look better to keep them there, what's everybody's opinions? Councillor McLeather.
I think they should be left, because if you have a large thing, that one coat or stand doesn't hold everybody's coats. You know, if you've got 70 people, which you can have, times when, you know, Rotary have done things and everything, and I think it should be left because it's always been there. But I had to try and put my hand up. I don't seem to get a blue hand for some reason. I seem to get a yellow one.
Yes, I think they've changed it
I'm
now,
more
Councillor Lowder.
concerned. I'm just more concerned that we did this survey. We went round in February of last year, and it's all right to say quote sort, but it's nearly 12 months. So I just cannot understand how it can take nearly 12 months to get a quote. And for all these things, I would like an explanation really to how all these quotes are taking so long, or are they just asking and then leaving them for somebody to eventually pick up off a paper? Because I'm not happy with it.
I think Andrew would have the answer to that. Are they coming back with quotes, or did we ask for quotes a long time ago and they've not replied? Or
We have done, Chairman, and invariably some of them haven't responded. Others have. Others have become lapsed because I'll be honest, our efforts have been focused elsewhere, and that's the situation. And an answer was given to this at the last meeting back in November. So nothing has changed since then. We are making a push to get this sorted as per the last meeting, and that's where we are.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Well,
Councillor
one
Moorhead.
suggestion,
Sorry.
suggestion I was going to put through was that we do have another visit to the Manor House soon.
You can do, but you won't be able to do that until after the lockdown.
I can't see why not.
Well, it's not essential,
There'd only be two
Councillor
of
Lowther.
us.
I wouldn't.
It would be two of us, just
And me.
social
Yeah.
distancing
Me.
around the
Well,
building.
maybe we can wait until the quotes come back, and if they come back quick enough, they'll get done. And then we can go and
Yes,
have a look around once we come out of lockdown.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is, or I am saying, is that it's okay saying if the quotes come back, we might get it done. But we've been waiting 11 months for this. And 11 months to me seems a long time for all the quotes to be waiting to come back. So I'm just not happy with the progress.
I agree with you that it's been a long time, but I do also think that we're in completely different territory to we've ever been in before. You know, I mean, in an ideal world, we'd send out for a quote, it would come back, we say yes, it would get done, and everything would look nice. There has been a lot going on, and I think this is that it's not at the top of the list. If to be honest, there's been other things that's been going on, but it does need doing. Just because it's only small doesn't mean that it's got to be pushed back. Councillor Moorhead.
Thank you. I've had my yellow hand up as well.
I know.
Before I did this. Right. 2 or 3 things. One, I am actually a member of that housekeeping group. I just was not able to attend today.
Yeah.
But I was going back to what Andrew was talking about, which was the coat hooks. I don't see any reason to take them down. They're long hanging, if you like. Because there will be times, for example, when those chairs are in use, for example, in the main chamber, and then those coat hooks are available for people using it.
Yeah.
We do also have the option, but when sometimes we've had the rail in room 2, or as you say, in the adjoining porch stroke conservatory. So I don't see the need to move them. What I would ask, not now because they aren't on the agenda, but will we have the opportunity to bring up 1 or 2 other queries about things to do with the Manor House at the end of the meeting proper?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, that'll be fine. Thank you. Councillor Heath.
Oh, yes, thank you. Same question really, because I've obviously not been privy to the reasons. I just wondered why our town clerk would ask, do you want to remove the rails? Because obviously it presumes there is a reason behind it. I just wanted to know what the reason. Has somebody bashed into it, or is there health and safety risk, or it looks untidy? Do we know what the reason is for the question?
Well,
No.
if I may, Chairman, I believe the reason that's on this list is when this visit was undertaken, the chairs were in front of them. And had the visit been undertaken when there was a meeting in the council chamber, they may not have been, and the hooks may well have been in use. Obviously, the chamber isn't in use all of the time, and therefore the majority of the time the chairs are stacked in front of them, because we do have a problem with storage space, particularly for the chairs.
Yeah.
And if we're to keep them upstairs, then that does obviously mean a number of trips down in the lift with chairs, and that lift can only take a certain amount of weight. So it was whether they could be relocated to somewhere more efficient and somewhere where we don't block their access, or if members were happy to keep them there, then that's fine. But obviously they could only be used as and when the chamber was in use and those chairs were out of the way, as it were.
Yeah.
Right. That perhaps might mean when you're doing your inspection next, just have another look to see if there's a better place for them then.
I'm sure we will.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Goodman Bradbury.
Yeah, my point was about that as well. I know there's been many times that we need, obviously the council chamber's the place that we need a lot of the chairs sometimes for events or for meetings. And it might be, I'm not sure where, but it might, we do want the hooks. That's absolutely right. We do have large groups, and obviously we've got to think in terms of normal, hopefully weddings, etc. in the future. Is there somewhere else those hooks could go? I'm not sure about that, but it would be good if we could, because it's a use, that corridor is a useful storage space from that point of view. And I understand the toing and froing of chairs, and there needs to be a solution sought for that. So if there is somewhere else we could put the hooks, but people can still make use of them, I think that would be a good result personally. I haven't got the answers, unfortunately.
I mean, it could be that they go on the opposite wall. I don't know how members would feel about that. Obviously, it's a natural place for them to be where they are, because you do have a bit of a recess and an alcove, so they are out of the way. But if the chairs were to be stored there and then taken into the council chamber, if the hooks were positioned on the other side, you would then have that space on the right as you're going towards the chamber to manoeuvre around them. So that could potentially be an option that members might want to look at when they take another visit.
Thank you. Councillor Terry Lowther, did you raise your hand just now? No, thank you. Councillor Moorhood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I go back round in circles again. I don't see any point in taking those down, because there will be times when they're to be used. But maybe on the next inspection, we have a look and think how we could put some somewhere else, or use an additional coat rail, which can be folded up and put in the right place when we need it. I think there are other options, but I don't see any point in damaging the wall by taking hooks down not for an urgent reason at the moment.
I do agree with you, and you know, it's logical to say, oh well, we'll look at it next time we come in. But if we've got somebody coming in painting, then, and we do decide we want to move them, we need to get that done all at the same time, rather than get somebody to come back to fill in the holes. A fold-up rail would be an excellent idea, because as much as we have the rail in the conservatory porch, whatever you want to call it, it can be a bit of an eyesore actually. So those coat hooks there do their part. When we did the walk round, I think Councillor Lowther will agree with me, we were a bit concerned about what went on there. I mean, we get the mayor's chair there, and that's, you know, that's sort of stuck back in the corner, and that should be in pride of place at some time. So I think maybe that little area completely needs to be looked at again. Because we need to store those chairs, the stacking chairs somewhere. And that's a logical, sensible place. Councillor Lowther.
Yeah, I don't want to pull, but I think I'm the only one that was on the actual Manor House refurbishment team. And definitely the coat hooks were there, left there for that purpose, hanging coats on. The chairs, well, I can clearly remember we did not want any furniture left in passageways or, you know, so it all just looks like a junk shop. And this is what we saw when we actually went on the last work round. And I'm almost certain it was agreed that they did go upstairs. And if it took the caretakers a while to move them, well, it took them a while to move them. You know, the point is that we've got a listed building. It's a beautiful Georgian building. And then when you walk into something, bang, you're looking at stuff that is just being stored and left around, and they can do. You know, there was rooms upstairs that they could be used. And I cannot remember for the life of me which rooms, but they were supposed to be, all of that was all supposed to be upstairs.
Can I say, before I come back to you, Councillor Maud, that I remember clearly that we had concerns about the room next to Assist Team being used for quite a lot of storage of their things. And I don't know if we did ask you or meant to ask you, Andrew, is that part of their contract? You know, the room
where the lift goes into.
Yeah.
It's I think there's a little bit of clarification needed.
Right, okay.
It is not.
The space does seem to have been, well, from not being used too much before lockdown to being very used after lockdown. Yeah, I'm not sure. We will need to check the agreement.
Because unfortunately, where we've had lockdown, I mean, I have been into the Manor when I've come in for the food bank and things like that. I've not really looked to see what's happening with that room now. And that would logically be a good place to put the chairs.
Yeah, well, from what I have been told in passing, that room was obviously initially part of the Assist office. And I think the agreement might have been that because the lift was going to be going into there to reach the ground floor, and obviously that would mean the room couldn't then be used as an office, it was to be provided as storage space. However, there is a built-in cupboard in there, which I initially interpreted as being that was the storage for Assist, whereas the floor space would need to be kept clear for disabled access, for the caretakers moving stuff. So we do need to clarify that, yes.
Okay, if maybe we could try and get that sorted, Andrew, have a good look and see whether we've got any commitment to Assist Team for them to use it, or whether we're able to use it ourselves. No. Councillor Moorhood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going back a few years to when the Friends of the Manor organised all the updating, my understanding is, if my memory's not that good these days, but the outside services used to use where Assist Timberridge now have their reception, and I think they gained that. So I think there's a little, as you say, some revision needed, because some of the chairs could certainly be stacked quite safely and handily in that area. But in addition to that, if my memory serves me right, we normally keep quite a number of the chairs stacked neatly in the actual chamber anyway, because even the dance classes don't use every square inch of that floor. So I would have thought, with a little bit of give and take in different ways, they could all be very close, very easy to move in. But
Yeah,
I would still propose that we keep those coat hooks and consider other ways of additional hanging space.
okay, okay,
I'll,
thank you.
I'll second the proposal for the coat hooks remaining.
Okay, thank you.
That's fine.
Councillor Lowther, Councillor Terry Lowther.
Yeah, that's really going back to we were talking about the space near the lift. Maybe that's something we were talking about reevaluating the leases and so on, weren't we?
I think clarification, I think, is
And
more
that's
of what
something
we need to know.
We need to address as to
Yeah,
who
because
has what and how much.
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, I remember when Mary and myself walked around, I'm trying to put it nicely. There were things that you sort of
Lots
through.
of things have just grown.
Yes, and it wasn't things that actually, if you were coming to a manor house and going to a wedding, that you wanted to be faced with, you know, like commodes and
I
things
guess
like that.
yeah, I saw the commode.
So maybe we need some
think
clarification or a closed door.
I think we forget sometimes that, you know, it is a civic building with some dignity,
Yes.
and we present it as something where you can hold an impressive event like a wedding or whatever. And we, I think we forget that quite often because we jump in and out of the place. We think it was a workplace. It isn't. I mean, it is a workplace as far as I'm doing these teams are concerned, but otherwise, it's a public building which should be kept in the right.
It's a beautiful workplace.
Absolutely, we spend a lot of money getting out of this. We need to keep it right.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Moorhood and then Councillor Lowther again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Being a bit of a pest, I know, but the obvious thing is the lift is ours. We have members of the public coming up and down in that lift. They have to access the lift area. They have to leave from there into the building. It is a health and safety problem to have other item just dumped in, for want of a better word. And if we were in control of it, it would be our responsibility if we had some chairs, a reasonable number stacked, and we would be able to make sure that the access to and from that lift was safe and secure. I think it almost impacts on our responsibility.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I think that Andrew's going to look and see what use we can use that, if we can use that room, or if it is committed to a Sistine. And if it's committed to a Sistine, then we have to sort of come back and have a proper look at it again. Councillor Mary Lowther.
Yes, sorry to keep coming back, but I'm talking about before any of you were on the council, when we refurbished that building. And it was a lot of hard work, and definitely that area was not for a Sistine to put the things that they're putting on. There is a cupboard there because Councillor Moorhood mentioned it. The Sistine space was extended into where their reception area is.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of alterations done and roof lights put in and all sorts of things. So that is where they were extending. So for them to say that they lost some of the office space, they did in theory at that point, but they gained office space where the reception area is. So they can't have it both ways. They've gained the space. So that is our space, and the cupboard is there for them to use.
Right, yeah,
Sorry.
it's not used as office, is it? It's used as storage, and they think we just have to clarify it.
I'll go back.
It's not office space.
I'll go back through the
lease. Used as office space now.
I'll go back through the lease. I'll go back through the lease agreement, and I will go back through the the Manor House Restoration Group, I think it was, and I'll look through their agendas and minutes and find if I can find anything.
Thank you very much, Andrew. While we're here, another contentious item.
Can we take a vote on the coat hooks, please?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. So I've had a proposal and a seconder for that the coat hooks remain where they are. All those in favour? Thank you.
Any against, Chairman?
Any against? Any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you very much. Another contentious item. Could you tell us, Andrew, without don't want to discuss it or go into big detail, how's it going with the toilets?
Right. I have an update for you on that. So we contacted the contractors that dealt with the pavilions, and we sent them the plan. They couldn't come and view the building, but we sent them a floor plan, which was to scale. And from that, they suggested that if we wanted to remove and demolish the cubicles and wash basin and install 2 new IPS cubicles with a toilet and basin in each, you would be looking at approximately 5,250. Depending on how the existing are fitted to the floor and the condition, we may want to change the flooring as well, which would obviously be additional. If we were to make the cubicles big enough to be self-contained, we probably wouldn't be able to fit 3 with the door opening inwards, although this might be the case depending on the dimensions of the room. Obviously, he says, as you can appreciate, this is just a guide, as I haven't seen the plumbing and where the waste is going. So on the back of that, we have asked if they can come and take a look, but they are not tradespeople. So at the moment, I don't believe they're covered by the exemption, but we're getting there. Right, and it does sound like it's feasible, which is good news.
That sounds very, very promising. I might have missed something. What is IPS?
That I don't know.
And what's self-contained? Does that mean
self-contained is so you've got the wash basin and everything in the one room?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Looks like we might be getting somewhere with that finally. Councillor Moorhood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Andrew, is this this is the firm who provided those at the pavilions that I sent a photograph of a long time ago?
Yes.
And those, for anyone who didn't see that, they were self-flushing when you left. They had their tiny basin and dryer all in there. So there was no queue outside. But I'm wondering whether any other firms might be able to use the space any more economically, or I'm assuming anyway that at some stage you'll be looking at more than one manufacturer. They're preformed cubicles, as I understand it.
Yeah, certainly. And then because it's over 2,000, we would have to seek 2 other quotes anyway. So this was just to get the guide price because it was based on somewhere that we knew that worked.
Yeah, no, my query was whether we could get 2 or 3 by changing things around in that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, not quotes. You mean cubicles? Yeah.
Sorry, I meant, yes, advice, guidance from somebody else, because they might make them differently. It might fit better. Although I think even having 2, which are completely self-sufficient, isn't a bad way to go, really.
No, not at all. It sounds extremely promising. I know I'm aware of the cubicles you're talking about in the pavilions, and I was struck by their design. I thought they were very good. Thank you.
Okay,
Councillor Moorhood, you wanted? Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right, Carol.
You wanted to bring some items to the end of the meeting.
Actually, that was the main one I was thinking of, but I know Andrew's going to come up with one now, I think.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Funnily enough, I am. How did Councillor Moorhood know this? I wonder. Just an update on the conservatory. We had the contractor in on Monday to complete the shoring up and the remedial works to make sure it's all safe for the winter months. I'm just going to try and share my screen so that you can see some pictures, so just bear with me. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the outside. So it now takes in the complete end of the building. Hopefully you'll be able to. Has the picture changed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's it from another aspect. this is inside underneath the apex
Mhm.
roof.
Yeah.
Is that where the rotten beading is?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's it from another angle. Now, sorry, I just stopped sharing the screen. There we go. The flat panels, which I also suggested to him, may need to have boarding fitted. After his inspection, he didn't consider that they needed it. What he did suggest was that some vertical uprights be placed from the straight metal beams that go across up to keep the glass there. And Councillor Moorhood, after a visual inspection, couldn't find them. And I went back to the contractor just to say, you know, has this been done? Is it not in shot? And the reply is as follows. They had to brace the long purlins in a different way to that originally discussed. It was envisaged the metal angle sections were continuous. Basically, the metal angle bars are not fixed. They are in individual short lengths and loosely housed in the rafter beams, about 5 to 10 mil in depth. So they have added support around the bars with an extended top support each side of the rafter beams to increase the support in the event of the rafter beams twisting under load and the glass dropping through the rebates. And this should give sufficient temporary support. Also, the metal bar ends are now restrained with fixed brackets. This will also give additional restraint to the rafter beams to avoid twisting or spreading. And he does go on to say that also, for your information, the existing timber frame to the gable end has some serious decay. However, the plywood sheeting will provide temporary bracing, protection and security in the short term, whilst you seek more permanent measures.
Yeah.
So although what we had asked for couldn't be done, they have implemented a workaround.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, it's not the prettiest to look at now, but it's going to be practical. But how long now before we'll be able to get things up and running?
Well, I think that's going to be a matter for the committee and what route we go down. You know, what we want. What do we want there, really? You know, I think there are some detractors from a full scheme, and there are some in support. So I think we're going to have to approach a halfway house that perhaps if we replace what's there already, it's left in a position where if you wanted to add something to it later on, you could. I don't know. That's obviously going to be something for members, but I should imagine if we get to do it right, it obviously won't be cheap.
No.
But do it right first, and then it should last a lot longer than what's been there at present.
And also, we've spoken before, and pie in the sky, and if you know, we could all get our wishes that the original conservatory would go back, or a conservatory would go back along the lines of what was there years ago. And whatever we do now, we want to be able to link up to that at some time in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Moorhood.
Thank you. Sorry, it's me again. Yes, I wasn't spying on the conservatory when I had to do a drive round, so I always have a look at what's going on. But my one question to the clerk was, if I assumed originally they were going to put something like acroprops in which case I was wondering whether they had revised their quote. That's the one question. The second is, should we be able to use the Manor House to any extent before a complete section is rebuilt? Do they say that it is safe to go through that room?
As it is now.
It would be, they will assure us that it would be safe to use.
Yes, they consider it safe for ingress and egress now, yes.
We've got that in writing. And the third one, I would agree exactly with what you were saying, Madam Chair, that the design, the construction must be of such that it can then simply be linked to anything else that might come up in the future.
In the future, yeah. Yeah, I agree completely with you with that. And I will come to you now, Councillor Heath, but my memory must be, there must be something to do with this COVID, because my memory's shot. Have we got plans drawn up for the conservatory in the future? Councillor Moorhead's waving at me.
An ex-councillor, Vickery, a long time ago, drew up some plans, but those were never taken forward. And to be honest, they didn't seem to be really in keeping. And I would just point out, because it comes up every now and again at planning committee meetings, that there is a Dawlish conservation area appraisal and a management plan, and we will have to abide by that to a large extent. I do know that Andrew has applied, I believe anyway, to join this historic buildings thing. But from my experience as well, living in a listed building and having had to repair the orangery, that there are quite a lot of guidelines we have to adhere to. There is, or has been, some money in reserve for these things, but of course this is an unexpected thing, so it may be a while, I believe, and it's up to the other councillors and Andrew, who would say this, it might be some time before we achieve the wish list, the large Georgian base to be built upon again. But we can do something in the meantime, subject to the right advice and then following the right designs and whatever, and materials.
I would like, I will come to you, Councillor Heath.
It's got to go.
Oh, sorry, go on, Councillor.
Oh, all right, thank you. Yeah, because it's got to 2:40, which I do need to get ready. Just a little feedback comment before I go, then I will disappear. Yeah, I'm glad to see the support's been put in place, and we got the assurance that the building won't collapse. That was all I was worried about, the health and safety side, not really the look of it for the moment. So that's good. My only input on it, obviously, I guess a big expenditure like this will come to full council anyway. But if it's going to cost many thousands of pounds to really make it decent, I certainly would be thinking, is that wise to spend it? My thought would be better to have a new conservatory that would last, with modern insulation, modern, double glazing, a proper insulated roof. That way we'd be covering the climate change as well, whereas a greenhouse effect, to be honest with you, literally in this case, is a heat loss instant. So I think that's something for the committee to really think about in the future. But because the building is not in good condition, it's not just to sit there with it all in propped up, perhaps come up with the next meeting or the meeting after with a plan, just get some quotes, get some designs, check that local plan that Val mentioned to do with the conservation area, etc. See what we can do, because at the moment it sounds as if we're not sure which direction to go while the building deteriorates. So that's only my thought on it. I don't know if that scatterbrain shotgunner thing helps at all, but good luck with that one, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Martin.
Through the chair, bye-bye. Through the chair, I would like to propose that if it's not going to be costing us a lot of money or costing any money whatsoever, we put feelers out to get some quotes for a design. If we went to a proper company that could come up with some designs and some quotes for us, we'd then have a bit of groundwork to start with. I don't know if that would be acceptable.
Chairman, presumably you're referring to designs for what is already there presently.
No. Yes, not to do the grand everything else, but to put in. We need a new conservatory where we are, don't we? That bit now that we've just repaired, we want to. If for the next 15 years we make that look nice, we get a new one there, and that's nice, and then that becomes part of the bigger one in the future. That's my way of looking at things. I don't know what everybody else thinks. Councillor Terry Lowther, then Councillor Moorhood.
Well, before we start thinking about designs for a new conservatory, we've got to think about things like what Councillor Heath has just talked about. Do we want a modern one, which is efficient and all that sort of thing? Or do we want one in tune with the rest of the building? My feeling is it should be in tune with the rest of the building.
Oh, yes.
If we go after designs, we've got to specify what we're aiming to achieve. So we've got to decide what sort of thing we want. Otherwise,
Oh, sorry, I thought that was a foregone conclusion, that we would
Well,
be
I don't
looking
know.
for something something that's in fitting with the building, not a run of the mill conservatory, because we're looking to put to replace a grander conservatory there, and we want something that links in with it. Yes, Andrew.
All I was going to say, Chairman, is obviously we have to bear in mind that by having the conservatory where it is, it enables disabled access to the council chamber. Because if you take the lift to the ground floor to the kitchen, you're obviously then faced with stairs in the corridor leading up to the other entrance into the council chamber. So
Yeah.
it is essential that we replace something so that you can link room 2 with the council chamber. And just in answer to the comments that Councillor Heath made, obviously, if we were to go for an in-keeping conservatory, the environmental standards of glass and insulation have moved on quite a bit. So you can get the thermal glass that will hopefully trap the heat in. And also you can get the self-cleaning glass as well to hopefully make it a bit better for maintenance points of view. So even though you'd be having something that perhaps looks oldie-woldy, you can have the mod cons within it to hopefully still keep it to a set environmental standard. Just in answer to Councillor Moorhead's first question, the revision to the quote, they haven't revised the quote down. I understand that what they have done comes to the same amount, and they've certainly not revised the quote upwards. So the price that was originally quoted for is the price we have paid, and I've not been requested for anything else. And in terms of the whole conservatory, RSL surveyors did provide a to scale plan of a potential design back, I believe, in 2016. And I do have that on file, so I can send that to members if you'd like, but I don't believe that was ever pursued.
yeah,
Thank you. I think we need, if we're going to start, we need to start somewhere. And I think we want to put, we don't want to put something that's going to be out of keeping. We want to put something that's in keeping with the building. But I think we need to start by getting some quotes and some designs to come in. And if it's not going to be, if we're not going to be spending council money by getting them in, I think it would be a good start. Yes, Councillor Moorhead.
Firstly, the clerk has in his possession a booklet which actually has a photograph of the original conservatories there. And you will find, I'm sure, that the current, I call it porch stroke conservatory, follows that design. It does have the same sort of apex, the same designs in the apex and whatever. And I think, so talking of first steps, it depends on what the conservation officers would guide us towards. My feeling would be that it ought to be in keeping, although I'm not sure whether that was Georgian. I think it was more Victorian. But as the clerk just mentioned, there are all kinds of different glasses now. There are even photovoltaic ones, so you can actually get your electricity from it as well. And if you use, for example, that current porch was in such a state, was built almost exactly 20 years ago when I was doing mine, actually. But it was built with softwood. I just had to replace my glazing bars with hardwood. So that's another thing to be thought of. And of course, wood is less conductive with cold temperatures coming in and out than something like aluminium. I very much doubt we'd be allowed to use UPVC, but we would need guidance. And I know that the clerk is getting guidance, or will be getting guidance, until we get that idea of whether we've got to go traditional or whether we can go ultra modern. There's not much point in getting in somebody to do designs until we've got a base idea of what we're going to be allowed to do.
yes,
But we do need to get on with it so that at least this initial part can be built, as you said before, Madam Chair, so that it can then be linked to whatever else comes next, and that they will all be similar and sorry, I've run out of the word I'm looking for now, but that they will be compatible. That was it.
Yes, yes. I think we're
Yeah.
all, I think we're all of the same opinion that
Well,
something needs to be done there, and we're throwing money after bad if we're just going to be repairing it all the time. I think it needs a new one, but we can't commit to anything until we know how much it's going to cost, what we can put there, and whether it will be allowed. So, but we need to start doing something. So maybe Andrew, you could get some guidance.
Yep, no problem.
Is everybody happy with that?
Yes, first find the conservation officer.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right. I think we've crossed that, dotted the I's and crossed the
Yeah.
T's on that one. So that brings this meeting to an end, unless anybody's got anything else they wish to add.
If Chairman, if this is the end of the formal meeting, I'll stop the recordings if you're happy, and then Councillor Walker can have the informal discussion
Yeah.
with us.
Okay,